My name is Jake Metters, and today I'm going to be talking about the use of drones in civilian life. As of March 10th, 2020, there have been upwards of 1.6 million drones registered here in the United States, according to the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration. Having drones that are capable of delivery along with surveillance have made life not only easier, but in times like these, where the emphasis is really on social distancing, it is possible to keep people connected while still maintaining that distance. So today I'm going to be talking about three things. First, I'm going to go over the two types of drones that you can register with the FAA. Next, I'm going to focus more on the delivery and surveillance aspect of civilian drones. And finally, I'm going to talk about some problems that people have with the use of drones in civilian life. So the two types of drones that you can register with the FAA are recreational, as you can see here in the top, and commercial, as you can see here in the bottom. Commercial drones are pretty much any drone that is connected to a business or that you're making monetary profit off of. Prior to 2016, use of these kinds of drones were not legal, but that changed in 2016. Commercial drones can be used for anything such as delivery, photography, land survey, anything along those lines. Recreational has really no connection to a business, and you're not allowed to use them to make monetary profit. So of those 1.6 million registered drones, 441,000 of those are commercial drones. The other around 1.2 million of those registered drones are recreational. There are currently 171,000 registered people in the United States with drone licenses. What is a drone license? So a drone license is required if you were going to fly commercial drones, but it's not required for recreational drones. So how do you get a drone license, you might ask? Well, first you have to be at least 16 years of age and be able to speak and write fluently in English. Along with that, you have to have a basic knowledge of how drones work, as well as the rules and regulations that go along with using drones. You must get an RPC, which is a remote pilot certificate, which is a test. You also must pass a background check. So this seems like a lot to get a drone license for a commercial drone. And all in all, it takes about a week total of worth of time, as well as about $100 to $200, depending on what kind of commercial drone license you're gonna go for. So this sounds like a lot, and you don't need a license to fly a recreational drone. However, there are a lot of strict rules that come along with flying recreational drones. So first, you must register your recreational drone, even if you're not using it commercially. The second rule, or one of the second rules, is that it needs to stay within your line of sight, so you can't go flying at places where you can't see it. Third is it must be less than 55 pounds. You also must keep a good distance from other vehicles in the air. You can only fly in Class G airspace unless approved by whoever owns that airspace, and you must keep it away from all emergency personnel and vehicles. So now that we know how drones are used in civilian and commercial ways, we're going to take a closer look at the delivery and surveillance aspect of drones. So right now there are three companies that are currently leading the commercial drone space. The first one is Wing, then UPS Flight Forward, and Zipline. So here on this chart, you can see the four different categories of commercial drones, as well as the companies that are leading those drone spaces. Each of these categories is in a different space currently when it comes to rules and regulations of that type of drone. The four categories that I just mentioned are retail, food, medical, and industrial. So when it comes to retail, that's pretty much anything where you purchase something and it ends up at your front door. Amazon uses it, Walmart uses it, e-commerce, just any shopping really. When it comes to food, currently they're really only using drone delivery for restaurants. I bet you didn't know this, but Domino's actually has drone delivery. But here in the future, they're looking to be able to use drone delivery from grocery stores. When it comes to medical, it's pretty much all medical tools, donations, blood donations, just transporting it from place to place around the United States. But in very rare cases, they're also able to transport organ donations. So when it comes to industrial, it really depends on the industry of what is getting transported. It's pretty straightforward. Like if you're trying to build a car, it'll send you car pieces, tools, anything like that. So along with the three before mentioned brands, a couple of the other top brands in this drone space are Early, Zipline, Flytrex, Flirty, and Matternet. This year there's been a lot of talk of the expansion of these kinds of drones. They're going to redesign, make them more efficient, make them more economical. So now that I talked about delivery, I'm going to step more into the surveillance area, which is pretty much owned by police and the government, stuff like that. One instance where drone surveillance actually helped was in Virginia a couple years ago. A suspect had ran into the woods, so the police were actually able to get a thermal camera attached to a drone, and they were able to find him. This information came from EFF.org, which is the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Another story where it kind of came in handy, you can decipher this on your own, was this was actually an article posted this morning on DroneDJ.com, where someone was found sunbathing on a beach in Italy by a drone, and the police were able to go there and enforce the current stay-at-home rules and get that person to go home. Even though these aforementioned uses sound futuristic and cool, people have a problem with the use of drones, and here are some of the reasons why. So, for delivery, efficiency is a big problem, and making money, losing money is a big problem for corporations these days. A man by the name of Thomas Kirkenstein at the University of Halle-Wittenberg actually performed a study and found that the use of drones for delivery was far less efficient than the use of manpower and vans. In this study, the drone was compared to an electric van as well as a diesel-powered vehicle. The drone and the diesel-powered vehicle performed very similarly because they both used around the same amount of power taking off as driving from point to point as hovering when the drone's dropping off a package. But the electric vehicle pulled far ahead when it came to all that because of how conservative it is. Another problem that is found is that drones currently are only capable of carrying one package and delivering one package at a time. A quote from Mr. Kirkenstein from this study says, "Parcel carriers, for example, can stop and deliver several parcels on foot if multiple customers are receiving deliveries in one street. We see this a lot when you look outside and you see the mailman walking up and down delivering mails to each and every house." Continuing the quote, "This is not possible for drones, as they can only deliver one package at a time. This increases their energy consumption, sometimes drastically." So how can we make this better? Well, as many of these drone producing brands have said, they are currently redesigning, trying to make them more efficient and be able to carry more packages rather than multiple packages rather than just one. So another problem that people have when it comes to surveillance is, for example, Italy, what I just talked about with the COVID-19 case. Were the police overstepping their responsibilities when they were flying drones over what they thought to be empty beaches, looking for people, then going and giving this man who was sunbathing a ticket? Well, a lot of people can argue that drones are hard to see, so they shouldn't really be used for that kind of surveillance because you don't know when you're being watched. Also, they can be fitted with various types of cameras. For example, in the Virginia story that I talked about, they used a thermal camera to locate that criminal. But that can also be a good thing. For example, in the Virginia case, finding that man would have been impossible without a thermal camera able to get way up above, and a big helicopter would have been too large where the guy would have seen it and ran away. According to the EFF again, which was the Electronic Frontier Foundation, there was a case in Israel where the Israeli government was using drones like these, they're shaped like hummingbirds, to spy on people's houses to make sure that they are staying at home during this time with COVID-19. However, I don't think drones like this should be used because that's really overstepping people's personal lives and spying into their house. There's also been talk of technology that can read people's phones and intercept phone calls that can be fitted to drones. So this plays into people's biggest fears, which is their personal fears of being spied on and all their privacy being invaded. So in conclusion, we have covered the basics of what drones look like being used in civilian life, as well as what they look like when the government uses them for surveillance. Personally, I think that if we can make delivery drones more efficient than manpower and electric vans, then we should do so, because it's all about making the money. But when it comes to the use of drones for spyware and surveillance by the government and the police, I don't think they should have capabilities like that. So now that you know all these facts and some arguments against and for the use of surveillance drones and as well as delivery drones, it's time for you to decide what you think. Thank you.